Welcome. I am Andrea Hobley, Vice President of the League of Women Voters, Woodbury Cottage Grove area. The purpose of the League, national, state, and local, is to empower voters and defend democracy. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. Its mission is to encourage informed and active participation of citizens in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. League of Women Voters strengthens our community by promoting voter registration, conducting candidate forums, and informing voters on public policy through education. And now I'll turn it over to Liz Nordling, who's our moderator today.
Thank you, Andrea. Good evening and welcome to this League of Women Voters Forum for the candidates in the November election for South Washington County District 833 School Board. Should be on. My name is Liz Nordling and I'll be moderating this forum tonight. As a trusted volunteer organization, the League of Women Voters does not support or oppose political parties or candidates. We sponsor forums like this to provide voters an opportunity to hear candidates' views about issues of interest in the upcoming election. Tonight's forum will be streamed on the ISD 833 YouTube channel. There will also be a link for the video on the district website under the School Board 2019 Elections page. This forum will be broadcast live on Channel 15 and will be re-aired a few times before the election. There are 10 candidates for 3 seats. 6 of the candidates are with us tonight. 3 of the candidates who could not attend tonight have submitted statements that I will read, and 1 candidate, Cecilia Domingos, has withdrawn from the race. The order for speaking tonight will begin in alphabetical order and will be rotated thereafter. Candidates' remarks are being timed to assure equality of time, and questions are being collected from the audience. The candidates with us tonight are Keith Collier, Melinda Doles, Kevin Haskins, Louise Hines, Heather Hirsch, and Pauline Ho. We will begin with opening statements, and we will begin with Kevin Collier.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Keith Collier, and I am happy that you have provided this forum that allows us to express our ideas and thoughts concerning the position of a school board member. I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself to you. I retired after 24 years of service in the United States Air Force. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I began my career as an airman basic, and so I look forward to an opportunity such as this because it affords me a chance to present to this community that I'm calling home now the skills that I've learned over my 24 years of service in the Air Force. I would like to present to you, I guess, any answers that I have knowledge of and things that I don't have knowledge of. I would definitely, research and be able to get back to the board my perspective on those subjects.
Thank you. Keith Collier. I'm
Yes.
sorry I called you by the incorrect name. Next with her opening statement is Melinda Doles.
Hi, good evening. I'd first like to welcome everyone and thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. My name is Melinda Doles, and I have lived in Woodbury for a total of about 30 years. I've graduated from the school district, and I have 3 children in the district. I have a child that was in special education system, a child that's in the standard ed system, and a child that's in the gifted and talented system. So working across the gamut of the district services has really given me a broad and unique perspective as a parent, and it also will as a school board member. I'm an active member of the school booster boards and committees at my children's schools, and I'm co-president of a PTA. I have a master's degree in counseling and psychological services, and my work experience includes over 20 years in child protection, mental health, developmental disabilities, and in teaching. My career path is really a testament to my dedication to children and families. So I'm running for South Washington County School Board because I want to give back to our schools and our community. I'll work hard to make sure that our schools are safe and inclusive so that every child can focus on learning without fear. I'll work diligently.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Next with his opening statement is Kevin Haskins.
Hello. I would first like to thank you for coming here tonight. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us. I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I've been married for 14 years. I have 5 children, 4 of whom have been in the district or are. The youngest one is 2, so soon, maybe. I am both an adoptive and biological parent. I've had kids benefit from many areas of education, especially in this district, academics, athletics, as well as special services for gifted as well as needing special supportive services. I have a degree in nursing and currently working as an RN. I have experience in nursing in the school setting. I have also a paramedic for 12 years and a firefighter for just as many. I also served in the military and I'm a war veteran. I have a strong desire for community and improving the conditions of our neighborhoods and the school district. I'm running for the school board because with my background coupled with a strong civic duty and understanding that a strong division and direction are important in running a successful program. South Washington County is a terrific district with great teachers. I've been so thankful for the support they have offered my children and would love to be a part of making the district an even better place to be.
Thank you. Next with her opening statement is Louise Hines.
Good evening. My name's Louise Hines, and I've been part of this community for 35 years. My husband and I raised 2 children who were fortunate enough to attend South Washington County schools from kindergarten through high school graduation. For 22 years, I was part of our district's incredible teaching staff. I retired in June of 2017, and I continued my love of teaching by subbing in other areas of the district. High-quality education and student safety, physically, emotionally, and socially, have been priorities of mine for a long time, and that will not change. As a teacher, I was an advocate for students, a voice for parents, and a partner with teachers and staff. I'm running for school board so I can continue as an advocate for students, a voice for parents, and a partner with teachers and staff.
Thank you. Next with her opening statement is Heather Hirsch.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Heather Hirsch. I have had the privilege of serving as one of your school board members for the past 2 years. I served in a vacant seat and filled it for the past 2 years, and I'm running again for a full 4-year seat. I graduated from Park High School in 2003 and have lived in the district since '91. My daughter is attending Cottage Grove Middle School and previously attended Hillside. I've spent my time on the school board serving on our policy committee, reviewing and revising our district's policies and procedures, and working with the staff to make sure that we're implementing them. I've also, just recently this year, I'm serving on our teacher negotiation committee as well with 2 other board members. I have valued greatly my time on the school board and wish to continue that work. I believe that our staff are the heart of our district, and I know that we can have great staff engagement. My background, I work at the Department of Education, and so I work in school safety every day. Social emotional learning is an area in the state that I lead work in.
Thank you. Next with her opening statement is Pauline Ho.
Hi, my name is Pauline Ho. A little bit about myself and my background. I came to Minnesota as a refugee in 1994 with my parents and a younger brother. I have a bachelor's science degree from the University of Minnesota in medical technology, and I was working at Regent Hospital for 15 years before opening a supplemental education business in 2017. My husband and I have raised 2 children. My son now is an 8th grader at Oakman Middle School, and my daughter is a 5th grader at Woodbury Leadership Academy. Over the year, I have served as parent volunteer at Bailey Elementary and Pine Hill Elementary School, working with students on reading and math. I'm running for school board to ensure all students in the district have equal access and opportunity to learn, grow, and reach their full potential toward a better place in life. I will focus on giving the frontline staff, our teacher, the professional development and support they need and deserve. I will closely work with the leadership team in the district toward the goal of educating a student generation, not only graduate from high
Thank
school.
you. We have 3 candidates who have submitted opening statements but are not with us tonight. The first one is Dwayne Brock. I will read his statement. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dwayne Brock. I'm sorry I was not able to be here tonight. My wife is graduating nursing school with her degree in nursing school. We in the Brock household hold education highly and believe in education in the system our teachers teach our kids today. I have been with my lovely wife Hillary and been married for 16 years. My son Katie is 8 years old and he goes to Armstrong Elementary and is in 3rd grade. My daughter Kyla is 10 years old and she goes to Armstrong Elementary and is in 4th grade. I'm a retired United States Marine. I was deployed overseas 4 times and now work for the federal government again with the Department of Veterans Affairs as contract specialist for construction team. In my off time, I volunteer with Cub Scouts as den leader for my son's Cub Scouts Pack 287. I'm also a lead usher for Crossroads Church in Cottage Grove. I believe in education. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the American Military University. As a candidate for school board, I have been reading the minutes from the last 6 months regarding teachers. And I'm afraid that his time is up. And that's all I can read of his statement. The next statement is from Ron Kath. Hello, I'm Ron Kath, current school board member of the South Washington County School Board. First of all, thank you for electing me in the past. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing my introduction statement to be read. For those who don't know me, I live in Cottage Grove. I am married and have one son who graduated from Park High School. I graduated from the University of St. Thomas with an accounting degree. I work for the Schwann Food Company, and I also enjoy many outdoor activities. My core values are hard work, integrity, enthusiasm, and helping one another. I am proud of the school district's past accomplishments. We upgraded our schools to support our growing communities and school entryways to prevent unwanted intruders. We put a greater share of our funding directly into the classroom versus other metro districts. We have passed balanced budgets. Our English, math, and science test scores are some of the highest in the metro area, and we have a high graduation rate. We have also provided the district employees more personal learning opportunities. A lot of accomplishments that we should all be proud of. That's the opening statement from Ron Kath. And now an opening statement from Simi Patnaik. I'm Simi Patnaik, and I'm a product of public schools and believe they should be a place where everyone has an opportunity to learn and grow. We moved to the district 17 years ago, in part because of the schools. Our school board should be a place where good governance reigns, where our leaders make thoughtful and sometimes difficult decisions, and where our community has confidence that the board will do the right thing. Over the years, we've seen our kids blossom, discover new passions, and be challenged, and I believe all kids, no matter their background, deserve the same. I want us to work together to ensure all students have the resources they need to thrive. Thriving in school means that kids are safe physically and emotionally. Nationwide, about 1 in 5 students report mental health issues, and that's about 3,800 students in District 833. We need to invest resources and train our staff around mental health so that our kids feel supported and ready to learn. I am eager to focus on future planning for our district. I want to lead our district toward a longer-term vision so to ensure that we maintain and invest in quality education, curriculum, and facilities. I believe I'm the right candidate, and I ask for your vote. Those are our 3 candidates who are not with us tonight. Now we will turn to our candidates who are with us tonight, and we will begin with questions. And the first question will go to Pauline Ho. And it is. In the past 5 years, more than $33 million has been spent on capital costs for the district's elementary and secondary Spanish immersion programs. Do you believe this is a good use of district resources, and why?
This is a difficult question. I know that in the past, Spanish has been cut from the elementary schools. I think this money should have been distributed equally across the elementary schools. That would be benefit the majority of the students instead of just a few hundred students who are in the Spanish immersion program.
Thank you. The question now goes to Louise Hines.
Sure. When we were thinking about Spanish immersion, I would just like to think about it in a bigger picture than just this school. The idea of having a Spanish immersion school also says that we're offering programs to our students that aren't available everywhere. And I know that that comes with a cost, but I still think that one of our jobs as parents is certainly to give our kids opportunities, and I think we need to do that in a district as well. In terms of, is $33 million the right number for that? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know the answer to something I don't. But I do think it's important to invest in programs that support our children in lots of ways.
Thank you. The question now goes to Keith. Sorry, I did it
Thank you.
twice now. Keith Collier.
I believe that the amount of $33 million for Spanish immersion programs is hopefully enough. I think that whatever amount is required to be able to ensure that all children eligible to attend our schools in our district have the opportunity to receive the level of education that will make them a success in our country and our cities. I think we benefit from that. If we allow ourselves to limit the abilities of any particular child, then I think we affect our communities negatively long term. And so we should help each child to be able to develop and fully realize their potentials. And within a Spanish immersion program, you're bringing them into a culture and helping them to be successful. And I think that there's no limit on the amount of money that we should spend for any particular program that allows our children to thrive.
Thank you. The question now goes to Heather Hirsch.
Thank you. The Spanish immersion program is one of the programs in our district that helps to make us a choice program, as Louise talked about. I think that it's really important to note that while that program does cost money and is an investment, it had a waiting list until it was able to move into its own building. It's also allowing us to repurpose a building that we previously used for Oltman Middle School in St. Paul Park and maintaining our presence in that community, which I think is critical to our district. I think that maintaining programs that allow us to offer choices to our students across all of our communities is also important. And right now we're in a time where our enrollment is growing, and we need to continue to do that as a district so we aren't losing students to other districts or to charter schools or other places where those specialized programming can be offered. And so while $33 million is a big number, in the context of our larger budget, I think it needs to be looked at in the context of our larger budget to fully understand the $33 million.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Haskins.
I think it's a very important program, and in terms of the dollar amount, it's hard to say without, looking at other fiscal responsibilities of the districts and things like that. But immersion schools and things like that in every area are very important. In this country, Spanish is the next, leading language behind English. So that's something very important for kids to learn, especially as they age and populations increase. In terms of the younger generation and them going through the school system, I believe that, multiple language learners also tend to have higher test scores. So there's a benefit to, not only their future, but also, I think some people have mentioned kind of bringing, parents and, kind of an attraction to the district as having, the ability to kind of immerse in different languages. Having, used to live in St. Paul where they had multiple different, they would often move schools, and people would often migrate to be near immersion schools of different languages so that their kids had those opportunities.
Thank you. Question now goes to Melinda Doles.
I believe in the value of public education, and I think that all monies for taxes should stay in public schools, and by having an option such as Spanish immersion, it makes public education more competitive with your charter schools and your parochial schools where students might have more of an opportunity for that. It is a lot of money, but I think it is something that's well invested in the district. I have had friends who've had children that have attended the Spanish immersion and have nothing but positive things to say about that school. It's also a great way to start language at a very early age and make our students more competitive and be bilingual. And it's a beautiful school, and I think it's a great program.
Thank you. Our candidates now have the opportunity for additional comments. Does anyone have any additional comments on this question? Seeing no hands raised, I will move on to the next question. It goes to Melinda Doles first. Please comment on the safety of our schools. Does more need to be done? If so, please elaborate.
Well, I believe that children need to have physical and psychological safety when they're in school. And I believe our schools are doing an adequate job of providing safety in our schools. They have a new no cell phone rule in the schools, in the middle schools and the high schools. I know my kids aren't that happy about it, but I'm happy about it. I think it's a great thing, and really keeps that cyberbullying away throughout the day, and really keeps kids learning instead of focusing on other issues. I know we have a new safety plan in the school as far as checking visitors when they come in to make sure that there's no sexual predators that are going to be coming in to visit with the children. So I do think our schools are on the right track for doing some really great things to keep our kids safe.
Thank you. Question now goes to Pauline Ho.
I think that our schools are safe right now with the investment about the double door, the security, and the guests at the front desk. I think our school also doing a good job of doing filter on the internet when the iPad and the Chromebook are implemented, so the student will be restricted to educational website. I think the school are on the right track in terms of safety for our children.
Thank you. The question now goes to Louise Hines.
I believe that question's asking about physical safety of our students, so I too like the checks that are at the door. Now, there's a couple other things that I think could be added. I believe our middle schools now share service officers, and I think it would be really nice to have a full-time service officer in each school. Additionally, there are times when there's a great idea and implementation and they don't always match perfectly. This I think is one of those times. And so, as a teacher, we all had a session where the safety director came in and they made it very clear to us that the first line of safety is locking our door. When it gets to the logistical level, now that I'm subbing throughout the district, sometimes subs have to go in more than one space because there's a shortage of subs, which creates a shortage of those keys. And so I will go sub, and there's not a key for our first line of defense. And it's a simple fix, but you just need somebody who knows what's going on at the logistical level as well.
Thank you. The question now goes to Keith Collier.
Yes, I think that the schools are doing a great job right now for safety. I think the question is beyond just physical safety, but also, as spoken earlier, emotional and safety of our children. I know that, like, if my children will go to Lake Middle School, I have twins that are in 6th grade there, and they mentioned that last year they were able to wear the ear headsets, and now this year they limited the students to just the earbuds, because the students were using those, I guess, to kind of distinguish or differentiate themselves from other students, such as gangs and things such as that. And so they were able to identify that issue and begin to, put in solutions that would help to prevent that from happening. They have, things that allow students to work through issues and work through problems in small group settings and things such as that. So they're doing a lot, and I think that everything can be improved, and that's what the school board can look into.
Thank you. The question now goes to Heather Hirsch.
Thank you. I do believe that our schools are safe. My daughter attends Cottage Grove Middle School. I also know as a board and as a cabinet, we have really made an investment in the past few years to the physical safety of our buildings. We applied for and received some additional grant funding from the state related to school safety, which is allowing us to implement the new ID systems at some of our schools. We also are really maximizing our Safe Schools levy dollars to be sure that we're utilizing that money effectively, so that frees up other dollars for us to use across the district. I will also say we're using data from our students on an annual basis around safety, bullying, cyber safety, and adult and peer connections to help guide our work at the building level. So I think all of those things are great strides and are helping, but I always think that we can do more. And I think a critical need in our district is expending more money in our mental health services and providing additional social emotional learning services for our students.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Haskins.
When it comes to safety in the schools, when you say can more be done, I mean, I'm sure there always could be. There probably isn't any kind of dollar amount you could put with, when you're talking about our our children or our youth, and what possibly safety measures we could have. With that in mind, I mean, there is, things that we can do, but not everything we can plan for. I generally think the schools are pretty safe too. There's keypad entries and locks and things like that for during the day when there aren't monitors and things like that. But going back to the question, could more be done? I really think you got to think a little bit outside the box. There's a lot of things that that happen that we just can't plan, that there's no contingency for, and we just have to keep that in mind every day. So I think there should always be something set aside, and that we should always be prepared for any possible, when you talk about physical safety. I believe Heather also mentioned some of the things that I was concerned about too, which is like the cyber and the internet. Getting that maybe kind of dealt with a little bit better in the schools too, because that's another means of egress into students' lives.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Kevin Haskins first. What, if any, plans or discussions are in motion with regard to accommodations for kids with mental health issues? And what would you do to address this?
Mental health is a big thing. Having worked for Health Partners, their big push was with NAMI and the National Organization for Mental Health and Awareness and things like that. And I mean, those are maybe some areas what the school district could partner with if they don't already. I guess I haven't heard of anything. They do walks and things like that. That's another area where something there's always more that can be done. There's a lot of different things that medically speaking that are coming out more and more that we're finding affect students, whether it be from mold within the house, different food colorings in the food, the type of foods they eat. A lot of things can impact immunizations, can impact how their bodies react in your immune system, and all of that can affect brain development, especially at a very young age. So in terms of that more, we can invest more in training the teachers to identify some of these things, because they're with the students certainly a lot. Usually second to parents, the teachers are there. So there's certainly more we could do and spend in terms of mental
Thank
health
you.
issues.
The question now goes to Louise Hines.
Thank you. I agree that teachers are our first line of defense. For a teacher to be licensed, part of that requirement is that you have some mental health training, and to be honest, it's not enough. It's a minimal amount of hours. So I know we lean a great deal on the psychologists in the school. I certainly did at Woodbury Middle School. That person happens to be fantastic and spent a lot of time with our staff at staff meetings, and any time was available. Again, we know that this is an issue in our schools, and we know that it's going to be prevalent, and we know that it's going to be more and more. It makes me really sad when students come in and they're just, they'll come in and literally tell a teacher, I have anxiety issues, and I hate the fact that our students even live in a world where they have to know those words. But it's a reality, and yeah, we absolutely can be doing more.
Thank you. The question now goes to Pauline Ho.
I actually have some experience with this one, and I think the district is in the right directions. Over in the past, the district had partnered with a youth service bureau to provide some mental health service for the student in the districts. Regionally, there was also some concern from the principal Oakman when staff reached out to her about students that didn't have, and she has made the initial move to support the teachers. I went to the meeting and also heard that there are some training for teachers that's in the work in progress within the district, so there are always more work that can be done, but I think we are in the right directions in talking, discussing, and finding solution for mental health students in the district.
Thank you. Question now goes to Melinda Doles.
Yeah, unfortunately, mental health issues and student suicide are becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I think it's important to have ongoing training for teachers and for paras in the classroom that can really help students that are dealing with those issues. It's also important to have counselors and school psychologists that are readily available for students when they're having issues, and to really try to figure out the kids that are struggling with those issues before they become such a huge issue that a student is having attendance issues or having such big issues that they want to drop out of school, or even come to the point of a student shooting or a student suicide. So I believe that mental health issues is definitely a huge issue in our schools. We are working on having the services that children need for that, but I feel that's an issue where we could do even more work.
Thank you. The question now goes to Keith Collier.
Is it possible to ask the repeat of the question?
Sure. What, if any, plans or discussions are in motion with regard to accommodations for kids with mental health issues? And what would you do to address this?
Okay, thank you. I think that there are, as spoken earlier, a lot of accommodations that are currently in place to assist children with mental health issues. I think that the school psychologist was mentioned, and partner with private practice. But what I would do, in addition to all that's being done, is to just ensure that the school district continues in the path that it's going. I think that it has a great strategic plan, and that I've reviewed it on the website, I'm sure as all of us have, and they're looking at doing more professional development training for all of their employees. So it's not just the teachers, it's the bus drivers, it's the staff that works in the hallways every single day, that it's a whole team concept where everyone in the schools that's around the children have the training necessary to be able to identify issues or concerns early. And you never know who can see what.
Thank you. The question now goes to Heather Hirsch.
Thank you. I do know that our district has made an investment in recent years in this area. We are in the process of utilizing some additional Safe Schools money as a result of our increased enrollment to explore hiring a district mental health coordinator, which will allow our sites to be more coordinated and more effective. We also, as a district, have just started a statewide partnership collaborative looking at evaluating the capacity and sustainability of our current mental health services and staff. I think those are key first steps. I do believe that we should have full-time social workers in every building, and it is something as a board member that I do advocate for, and I think we need to explore the budgetary restraints of that. I also will say that our elementary schools, K-5, have added social emotional learning standards to their report card and are including that as part of their standards-based grading. We're in the process of starting the curriculum review cycle for our social emotional learning to, again, help with some of the prevention around our mental health work.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Louise.
I want to repeat something that Keith said, because I do think that's really key, that we take a look at everything that's around the child. So we're not leaving out, the kids club people who are the first ones to see them in the morning, our kids club people, or the people who are working in nutrition services and notice that this student has now moved away from the people they usually have lunch with, or the custodial staff that's saying goodbye to children on the way out. I think that was well said and really important.
Thank you. Anyone else? Heather.
I just want to clarify a point or a comment that I heard earlier from another candidate. Mental health is a huge need in the state. I work in the area of school safety, and there is not a solid line from students experiencing mental health crises to students who engage in or have ideation of school shootings. So I just want to be very clear that we are monitoring both of those things, but they are separate issues, and they are not necessarily connected.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I heard from the control booth that you should all be leaning into your microphones. Our next question goes first to Heather Hirsch. South Washington County is an increasingly diverse school district, but lacks diversity in its teaching and administration. Do you believe it's important for students to have role models that look like they do? If so, what steps should be taken to diversify district staff?
Thank you. I agree that it is critically important for students to see individuals who look like them in positions within their school. I know as a district we have had strategic planning goals around that very issue for the last several years. It is a challenging issue for a number of reasons, but we are exploring a lot of different opportunities. And in fact, last year as a district, we met our hiring goal for hiring staff of color. And so I think it's also important to think of non-licensed staff as being additional staff that we can bring on that are helping to expand the diversity of our employment pool. I also think that some of the investments we're doing around recruitment and traveling out of state and exploring grow your own programs where we can help diverse staff move into teaching positions are also things as a district that we are exploring and that our HR department is taking on.
Thank you. The question now goes to Pauline Ho. Pauline, lean into your microphone, please.
Yes. I think it's important to recruit teachers and support staff that look like students to increase the diversities. And I agree with Heather that the district has been working on this for the last few years, and we see some improvement across the school around the district.
Thank you. Question now goes to Melinda Doles.
Yes, I think it's extremely important that the teachers that we hire can match the demographics of the students that attend our schools. Study after study show that children will learn better and have an easier time in school when they see people that look like them. And I think with the achievement gap that our schools and district already is looking at, that is a huge matter that can help some of that. And it's a crucial matter. I know working in child protection, I had students that a teacher or a parent or someone was the biggest person in their life, and having that person look like them and help represent them was a very important factor for them. So yes, I believe it's important.
Thank you. Question now goes to Kevin Haskins.
Equity of representation is always going to be important, especially in schools. You know, there's already been, multiple studies like people have mentioned, there were districts that were less, in other states, I can't remember what the specific state was, I think it was in New York, where kids were actually bussed into the less, the more privileged kids lived in one area, and they were actually bussed in kids from the less privileged area, and tech scores actually went up. Because people tend to think that, there's some kind of difference in, socioeconomic background and like scoring and things like that, and there's not. They find that it actually brings it up. Now, in terms of teaching, I can only extrapolate that and assume the same. I've never looked at, whether or not the diversity of teachers impacts it. But in many other areas, in life and at work, when people feel, that they're represented, at least in an equitable, kind of, and that status is kind of represented equally, then things like test scores may go up, interaction, engagement, those kind of things may go up. So, of course, it's very important. And steps should be made to do that.
Thank you. The next question goes, that question now goes to Louise Hines.
Okay. I think it's important for our students to be part of the real world. So in terms of, I want all our students to be able to see through windows and see other cultures and see mirrors that reflect their own culture. I'm going to compliment the district. I've been sitting in on board meetings, and I know this has been a priority, and it's come up at several board meetings, and I know that there's work being done in recruitment, and I'm going to thank you for meeting your goal this year, and I trust that it will continue.
Thank you. The question now goes to Keith Collier.
Yes, I agree that this is a very important subject. I think that the school district, as well as the state education system here, has gone through great strides to ensure equity, in all things. I have an opportunity to participate in the bias and sensitivity review panels that review the MCA tests for math, for reading, and when we sit, we look for things that will cause students to be distracted from the test based on the words that are used, the way the questions are written, things such as that. And so when you're in the classroom as a student, to be able to see someone else in that professional position, to be able to go to the lunch room or to the gym and see someone else that is successfully performing the task as an employee, you feel more excited about your education. You feel more connected to that system, and I think that will keep, students in school longer.
Thank you. I'm going to give you all the opportunity for a rebuttal because the second part of the question was only answered by a couple of you, and the second part of the question is, what steps should be taken to diversify district staff?
Okay.
Who wants to start? Keith.
Yes, I think that Heather spoke to that very well in the strategic plan that they are currently taking steps to hire. They're trying to increase their not just the teacher staff, but just all new hires from 15 to 17%. And she said they met that goal, and I think they should continue on that path. They're also in the strategic plan are looking forward to the retention programs that will retain those people that they bring on board. Because to bring people on board is one thing, but to keep them there and to help them really develop into that system is really important.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Heather.
I also want to clarify, I know I spoke specifically about hiring staff of color, but I do want us to also remember that diversifying our staff is more than just staff of color. We also need to make sure that our students are seeing themselves reflected in terms of ability and of ethnicity or socioeconomic status, things like that, so that all of our students are able to see and make connections with other adults. And I do think one of the other things the district has been doing is forming affinity groups specifically for staff of color to help with the retention, which I think has been very successful.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I don't know if they offer any kind of like referral program, but I think it's like something like 80% of all jobs are, don't even make it onto like Career Builder or whatever, these kind of websites. So usually it's all by word of mouth. So the important thing to that would be like, teachers kind of, if they know somebody or someone from another district trying to, get them over. Like, why is it better here? And then look, just kind of task teachers and, people who may be able to branch out and network a little bit into that and to bring people in.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, Melinda.
So I know that they've recently hired a director of educational achievement and integration, and they have several cultural liaisons working for the district, which I think is really great. A way to possibly get more staff of color into the system would be not only networking, but just talking to the families, families of minority students, figuring out they know anyone, if they're teacher qualified, interested in teaching, for people to attend community meetings in other communities where there's people that are more racially diverse.
Thank you. Louise or Pauline? No more comments? Okay. We're going to move on to the next question, and it goes to you first, Pauline. During the past 3 school boundary processes, thousands of families voiced significant preference to remain at schools located with their own communities. This means attending the school closest to home, including areas where population is concentrated and rapidly growing. Would you make community a priority in planning for future space needs?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the questions again?
During the past 3 school boundary processes, thousands of families voiced significant preference to remain at schools located within their own communities. This means attending the school closest to home, including areas where population is concentrated and rapidly growing. Would you make community a priority in planning for future space needs?
I think that we should spread out because their population are growing in different spots across the South Washington County school districts. Based on predictions, some of the schools will be overcrowded and some of the schools will lose attendance. Instead of putting family in school close to their neighborhood, to decrease the classroom size, I think we should spread the students across the different schools to make sure that the classroom doesn't increase too much. One of the problems that we see, like Bailey Elementary School, Liberty Ridge Elementary School, those school class size has increased significantly, and based on predictions, Armstrong and a couple other schools in Cottage Grove will lose some attendance. We don't want to see classroom too big at one school and classroom too small at a different schools.
Thank you. Question now goes to Keith Collier.
Yes, I think that as much as humanly possible, you should consider community. I think it's important. I think when my children go into the neighborhood and they play with all the other children in the neighborhood, and then they all get on the bus together, they go to school, they develop long-term relationships and friendships that help them to thrive when they have needs for, peer group studies where they're going to, prepare and do group assignments. They're near each other and they can go easily visit each other. I think that a focus on busing is important to ensure that students have a way to get to these schools. No matter how close they are to the school, they should really consider expanding, the scope of school busing as well. School choice applications, where they could choose, which school, if you were one of the parents that, has to drive away from the school that you're with. And then on a case-by-case basis, allow acceptance, for people to move to the school of their choice.
Thank you. Question goes to Heather Hirsch.
So I feel like at the heart of the question, it was whether or not community engagement is important. I think it's critically important. We as a district are just beginning the process of our long-term facility maintenance planning, and we have a district-led community task force that is providing feedback and input to that process. And I would always want our community members, whether they're parents in the district or not, to feel as though they have the opportunity to participate in that process. Oftentimes, boundary changes or building or facility maintenance comes with bonds or referendum conversations. And so I think it's critically important that all of our community feels like they have a part in putting those decisions together and in having their voice and their needs reflected in those decisions. And so I do know that our district has a plan to do that with our long-term facility maintenance. And I would encourage any of you who are interested in that topic to please reach out to the district so that we can connect you with that task force, which has just begun meeting.
Thank you. Question goes to Louise Hines.
This one's a little personal for me. Our daughter is 38 now, but she started school at Royal Oaks kindergarten to 4th grade, and then Middleton opened, and she went to Middleton 5th grade, 6th grade. And then she was at Woodbury Junior High, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then Lake opened, and she went to Lake for 9th grade, and then she finished out at Woodbury High School. I also see students. There's a section of Red Rock that gets hits that's right on those edges of boundaries and has been hit. You need to know that teachers, it's not me, it's prevalent in the school, that we take care of those kids. We take care of those kids. We know they're coming in. We try to pair them up. We try to make sure they get connected with community. When you come to space issues, there's just a lot that needs to be balanced. There's, what space is available without buying new space. There's the community growth and the community population. All those things have to be factors. So in terms of, does the community need to be considered? Absolutely. But there needs to be this understanding that there are other factors that are always going to play into that as well.
Thank you. Question goes to Melinda Doles.
Yeah, boundary issues are going to continue to be an issue with our ever-growing community. They've been an issue since I've had students in this community, and they'll continue to be an issue. Houses are going up constantly. But I do believe that the school board, our main goal is to really be a voice for the community, and I believe that community involvement is extremely important, that they can, coming to the meetings and having forums where we can all discuss the issues. I know it's important to have your children go to schools by where your neighbors across the street go to schools, but there also is the issue that, we need to keep our schools at equitable numbers, and when you have communities that are growing in one area, boundaries are going to have to change. It's just a fact of life. So my kids have been moved all over the place, and they've adjusted. Was it ideal? No, but sometimes it has to happen.
Thank you. Question goes to Kevin Haskins.
I think it's kind of a multifaceted one, honestly. Do I think it's important, for community, for engagement and things like that? Yes. However, I know honestly this feels a little bit political because, the way boundary lines are, communities growing and things like that, they change. I don't remember if they change with the census or things like that or when they redraw the lines. But I know that where we were zoned into East Ridge, and we were more than 3 miles away when Park was less than a mile. So I know that the zoning isn't perfect, and there's a lot of logistical things that go into that, but that was quite a big gap, especially considering a lot of new neighborhoods were being built. So I think, even though I do think community is important, I think that these lines and the class sizes and the teachers and all that kind of engagement that comes with that, and the school admission rate, things like that, I think that all needs to be taken into consideration as well. And sometimes I think that's going to bring up some conversations that you don't want to have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments?
Yes, I do.
Yes, Keith.
I have two things I would like to add. One, I think we as a community should really invest more into our students, into our schools, into the facilities that we have. We should really look at expanding preparing for the future. It's going to grow. It's going to continue to grow. And so when you look at Eastridge High School, there's an opportunity to expand. There's city planning that should take place with all of the new developments. So as we look at the middle schools and the elementary schools, and we're approving developments, we do have external committees that the board participates in, and they should really be a voice at that committee to let them know, about the schools that should be planned into those new developments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Heather?
I would just like to add that boundary changes or building changes is never an easy conversation. And so community input is critical to those decisions, but there's also looking at the physical space needs, the functional space, the capacity of the space, maintaining low class sizes. So according to the Department of Education right now, our licensed staff to student ratio is 15-1. It's one of the lowest in the metro, and that needs to play a factor in how we make decisions about our space as well.
Kevin?
Oh, just kind of going back to that, just to kind of add a little bit to that earlier point about, kind of like with Park and in Eastridge, I think one of the things is like when Eastridge was built, everyone wanted to be there. So if you were zoned into there, maybe you were very happy. I don't know if that had anything to do with how they did the lines, but we were perfectly happy with sending our kids to what the community school was, and Park is a wonderful school with wonderful teachers. I don't know how it got a reputation of being like lesser than Eastridge, but I think the teachers are the highest quality there as they are at Eastridge. So I mean, those are some of the things that maybe need to be brought up at community forums and things like that about the quality.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say, when the boundaries changed when my children were in elementary school was shortly after Liberty Ridge was built, and they went there for 1 year, and then they changed the boundary again, or one of them did. And we can see Liberty Ridge from our backyard, but the school boundaries got changed to Middleton, and I loved Middleton, and I was actually very glad that the boundaries got changed. I like both schools, but what it really comes down to is the kids in their neighborhood. Even though the school might change, they were still with the kids in the neighborhood, and that was what was really important.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to the next question. It goes to Keith Collier first. Staff of 833, including teachers, paras, and others, are paid significantly lower than surrounding districts. This causes staff turnover. How would you respond to this problem?
Okay. Well, when we talk about staff turnover and pay being equitable, I think that I don't think pay is the major concern for turnover. I think that most teachers look for other things, such as time to plan for each trimester as you go. I'm used to schools with traditional, 2 semesters, but now we're 3 trimester, the trimester system. So giving them that time during school hours for planning, for actually grading assignments, inputting grades, those things I think would, rank higher on the quality of life of teachers. You can always throw more money, but I don't think throwing money at the problem is the only solution to retention. And I think that's the greater concern here is retention of good students, good teachers, retention across the board of good employees. And so really listen to the employees to determine what their needs are.
Thank you. Question now goes to Melinda Doles.
Yeah, study after study show that student success is highly related to their teachers. Effective teachers are just crucial in the classroom, and competitive salaries are necessary to hire and retain good quality teachers. I think that it's very important for us to have competitive salaries so we can retain those teachers. Teachers are such a great foundation for our children and for lifelong learning. And it was, someone just said in a Democratic convention the other day, I won't mention the candidate, that, and I really agree with this, that teachers need to have the respect of the armed forces and the pay of a doctor. And obviously we can't pay the students as much as we would pay a doctor, or the teachers as much as we would pay a doctor, but they are well worth it.
Thank you. Question now goes to Kevin Haskins.
Well, in the importance of fiscal responsibility, it just depends on, where, money is available and things like that. Do I think, it's important to pay teachers, an equitable amount, compared to surrounding areas? Yes. However, I do believe there's other ways to go about that. If you have a better benefits package, if that's something that could be more, something that could be done, something that might draw the teachers in. However, if the pay is a little bit lower than surrounding areas, people might be willing to commute or possibly commute less if they're closer to somewhere. So you may lose good staff. Generally, just like in corporate America and things like that too, you typically pay, top talent, you get top pay. Is usually how that works. Now teachers don't obviously get into this line of work, considering their backgrounds and their degrees necessarily for that reason, but that could be a driving factor if there's something going on in their family that they may need more money for.
Thank you. Question goes to Pauline Ho.
I think the teacher deserve a good pay for the amount of work that they put into the classroom. During the negotiation last year, the teacher asked for more than just pay. I remember that I met a second grade teacher who went to a meeting and told me that she was crying after the meeting because the expectation was so high, but the support wasn't there. So the teacher were fighting for more than just pay. They're fighting for the support. They're fighting for classroom size. So I think that we need to look strategically at the whole packet. But I think it's important to remain competitive with the surrounding districts so we can retain the best quality teachers. I think it's best for the children that way, rather than the new teacher with so high expectation and low pay. The turnover is really high, and it's actually cost the district more for turnover.
Thank you. Question now goes to Heather Hirsch.
Thank you. This is a complex question. On the surface, yes, I think that all educators should be paid more money. I think some of the challenges that a school district faces is that the state hasn't kept up with fully funding special education services, and we face a growing cross-subsidy for special education, and we can't not provide those services to students. We're obligated federally and morally to provide those services. I think that we do make efforts to try to make up with it in terms of our benefits package that we do offer our students. I think that we do, as I mentioned, have a low licensed staff to student ratio. And so I think the other piece is that not all of our staff are licensed teachers, but social workers, principals, behavior interventionists, teachers on special assignment, all count as part of the supports that we're offering. It's difficult for me as a board member to say that we should cut those staff members or choice programming in order to free up additional dollars to pay our teachers. Although I fully recognize that if we had more money, I would support giving more of that money to our teachers.
Thank you. Question goes to Louise Hines.
Sure. When teachers start looking at their salary and they take, we talk to people in other communities, and when they're not equivalent, it becomes not just I'm getting paid less, but there becomes a part where it doesn't feel fair anymore. And teachers want to be treated fairly. They want to be seen as people who treat others fairly and get treated fairly. You need to start thinking, or we need to keep in mind that whatever a teacher's teaching conditions are, those are our students' learning conditions. So absolutely we want the pay. Why wouldn't we want to pay the top dollar? We have top talent here. Why don't we want to be doing that to recruit people? But it's more than that. It's a level of respect that comes with, get the contract settled. Don't wait 2 years. These are things that our teachers teaching without a contract for 2 years just doesn't show a level of respect either. It's the kind of thing, if we can't compete because we don't have the same tax base, then change the environment to make our environment so inviting that that's what becomes competitive here. Salary is important. There's no doubt about it. We need to support families too. But there's an environmental part that can also attract teachers here.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments?
Oh.
Yes, Kevin.
Well, I was just also thinking about support services, and I've talked to teachers about that too, about the paras and other types of programs. There's other ways to make staff feel not only that, pay isn't always the issue, if it's only a couple dollars difference, but you're in a district that has more support. 80% of people report of leaving a job because of a boss or feeling supported. So I think, the flip side of that is true too, is that a lot of people will stay if they feel supported or that things are being done. And they're not going to leave a job for just a small bump in pay, especially if it's somewhere they might be tenured.
Thank you. Anyone else? Additional comments? Yes, Heather.
I mentioned a little bit about the state's underfunding special education. I will also say that even though we were fortunate enough to get 2% on the increase of the formula, that has not kept up with inflation. And so while I think it's critically important, I also use my ability as a citizen to advocate that at the legislature, because schools cannot continue to be funded the way that they are from the state. And I will say that one of our strategic planning goals is on staff culture and climate, and we have been measuring our culture and climate and intentionally trying to address that in the district as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Louise.
I know Heather has mentioned our licensed staff ratio is 15-1. I personally never had a class under 30. And so I know that we need supports in place partly because our class sizes are so high. So one of the things about bringing down class size or taking a look at funding for teachers' salaries, because both of those will raise that pot, is I think we need to be taking a look at other school districts that are making it happen. You know, I grew up in the state of Wisconsin. I have friends in Wisconsin, and they are irate when class sizes hit 26. So they're doing something that maybe we need to take a look at and learn from.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, and it goes to Kevin Haskins first. Despite a zero tolerance policy for bullying, this continues to be a pervasive issue in our schools. What will you do to address this?
Well, I mean, zero tolerance is, it's kind of says that at least per policy that it will not be tolerated, obviously. What can be done about bullying? Obviously, that is, as technology changes and things change with the kids and the newer generations, we need to adapt to kind of how they're, so the bigger push right now is kind of the online bullying. Kids they're committing suicide at higher rates than they used to. They're being, everything you do is on social media now. So everything, if you make an embarrassing moment, the whole world knows about it. Whereas, 20 years ago, that wasn't an issue. So in terms of how we combat it, I mean, one of the things is identification. Kind of goes back to, like staff training and seeing, when people are bothered, withdrawing from classes, things like that. Some of those early intervention strategies may help. Another thing might be an aggressive initiative to kind of combat that cyberbullying. And recognizing that in the classroom, maybe dealing with the cell phone usage, a different policy in terms of pulling that away from students as well during the school day.
Thank you. Question now goes to Louise Hines.
It's important to remember that reporting bullying, that's really difficult for our students to do. That is like the worst thing you can get caught doing. And so when a student takes that step and comes to a teacher or comes to a counselor or comes to someone and reports bullying, there are steps that are in place. It is not tolerated. There is something that happens. There's also privacy laws around that. So as a teacher, I can't tell that student, here's what's being done. So I think one of the things we need to do to make sure that our students feel safe is to say, okay, I've done what I can. You need to let me know if this continues, so that they know. Again, there's no definitive way for me to say something's been done and here's what it is. That violates some privacy things. So again, we need to let our students know something's been done. If it doesn't stop, let me know, and something else will be done.
Thank you. Question goes to Melinda Doles.
Yeah, having a child myself that was a victim of bullying often, having special needs and mental health issues, I dealt with it on close to a daily basis. So I do think that the schools have a pretty good way of handling it. It can be a little better. Having student or teacher training and making sure that the student is able to feel comfortable talking to their counselor, their para, whoever they are most close to at the school is really important. And like Louise said, really catching that, because by the time they come to a staff, oftentimes it's gotten beyond that control. But I do think that the new systems with the Chromebooks and the cell phones are going to help some of that at school at least. Not so much outside of school, but at school at least they'll be able to be there focusing on the actual material and not getting alerts on their phone constantly while they're in school that are distracting them and hurting them.
Thank you. Question goes to Heather Hirsch.
So as a board member, I have been fortunate enough to co-host with the district bullying education courses or open houses for parents at Cottage Grove Middle School. And so that is an area that I have a particular area of expertise. And so it was a need that the school building identified, and I was able to partner with the district to help offer that. I want to just reiterate that bullying is complex in nature. Students exhibit bullying behavior for a number of reasons, and there is no one thing that can put an end to bullying. What I think we need to spend more time in investing, we have great policies and great reporting forms. I'm not sure that all of our staff feel like they understand fully the procedures that are in place if a student does disclose their bullying or if they see what could be bullying behavior. And so I think that we need to make sure that we are paying attention to that we have adequate mental health referrals and supports, and that we're clearly communicating that process and procedure to our parents and our students.
Thank you. The question now goes to Pauline Ho.
I would like to add into that the bullying, we should involve parents and parent education. I think the child start at home, so I think involving the parents and educating the parents will help to improve the process.
Thank you. Question goes to Keith Collier.
Yes, along the same lines as Heather, I think that schools are doing a great job, I think right now, at dealing with bullying as it arises. I know there's a zero tolerance policy, but I do see that there is an opportunity, and the teachers have taken that opportunity, as well as counselors, to rein in at an early stage bullying or suspected, bullying, things that lead to bullying, and they put in place things to prevent it. As I spoke earlier, they have changed the policy on the use of the headsets in Lake Middle School, where my children attend, just for that same purpose. My child in elementary school was a victim of that, and there was involvement from the school and with the parents. We, were reached out to, and things went well. I think that training for all the staff, not just the teachers, for the staff that are monitors with the students, increasing the number of monitors available to identify things is really important.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments?
I think it's also important for the schools to have some type of support group through the other students, not just through the professional staff there. So if there's a group at school that students know that that they can go to and that will help them, maybe someone that they can even just sit with at lunch if they don't have any friends. So just feeling comfortable having someone they can talk to.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Kevin.
Yes, I agree. Empowering children is definitely the way to go in terms of reducing that. Another thing that I was thinking of is, I am married to a social worker, and often kids who bullied are hurt. So there's, we can discipline, the kids that are bullying, obviously, through the zero tolerance policy, but there may be, like what I mentioned earlier about the training, is there may be something going on there because it's a learned behavior. It's more of a, a social kind of issue as opposed to, it's not just something people pick up on their own. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? And we're going to move on to the next question, and it goes first to Louise Hines. Why do you want to be on the school board, and what makes you the best candidate for the school board?
I have a checklist on my Facebook site that you can take a look at. When I take a look at who is important to be on the school board or what comes together to work well as a school board, it's a combination of community members and parents and staff. And I fill all three of those. So I'm one of the people who not only is a teacher, but I was a teacher in this district. And I've worked with staff at the school level, and I've worked with a lot of staff. But I think it's really nice to have someone here who would have a perspective that's more than one perspective. I can see the teacher's point of view, and I can see the parents' point of view, and I can see the community's point of view as well.
Thank you. Question goes to Heather Hirsch.
I've been fortunate to serve on the school board for the past 2 years. And so I am hoping that some of you have come to board meetings or read about the board meetings and are happy with how I have served you. I've also, before that, was involved in the strategic planning process for the district and served on the PTO of my daughter's elementary school, Hillside Elementary. So I have been committed to working in the district. I also work in education. During the day, I spend my time working and coaching with schools and districts across the state on improving school safety, improving student social emotional learning, and improving staff and student climate across the state. I also work on helping districts revise their discipline policies and look at programming that they can put in place to address academic inequities and school climate and culture. I will also say that I have greatly enjoyed my time and do wish to continue serving everyone. I have a master's degree in public health, which seems non-traditional for education, but the best place to provide public health to kids is in school.
Thank you. Question goes to Keith Collier.
Yes. I have had an opportunity throughout my time here in Minnesota to participate in the Department of Education, again, the sensitivity and bias review panels. And I've had the opportunity to attend and visit the school board meetings. And I like the direction that the school board is going with the school, with the strategic plan, and I would like to be able to help support that. Over the last 5 years, I've worked in a position that allows me to develop and point the direction of the office that I work in, as well as over the last 24 years during my military service. I've had the opportunity to help develop and plan and create policies. We research and we develop what is best for our environments that we're in. I've had 11 assignments over those 24 years, and in that time, I think that I've gained an opportunity to understand the process for governance and leading, and so I would like to be able to bring that to this school board.
Thank you. Question goes to Kevin Haskins.
Sorry. No, I mean, I mentioned some of that in my opening remarks. I didn't quite get to a lot of it, but I think it's kind of important. It's always been something, it's not like necessarily something I wanted to do always, it's like, oh, I want to be a school board member. But I mean, I've always been interested in, the kind of the convergence of academics and school and physical, especially with like being a nurse as a background. But I mean, I've coached t-ball and baseball, I've dealt with, young children, pediatric, wards and things like that. And education is, in schools is a good way to reach people in many different ways. What would make me a good board member is, I have a strong kind of, sense of duty and service and things like that. But also, I understand that, the nuances and the complicated, factors that go into, what money should be spent where and things like that. And a lot of those aren't easy decisions to make, and some things are going to have to be put off. I mean, just because the money's not there. Anyway, those are some of the things I would work on. So. Thank
you. Question goes to Melinda Doles.
Yeah, I touched base on some of this in my opening statements as well, but I think just being a long-time community member in this community and attending schools here myself and having children in the school districts that have really been on the opposite spectrum of learning, from having a child in the gifted and talented to having a child in the special ed system has really given me a broad range and a new perspective. And then just having over 17 years in child protection and having also experience in mental health and developmental disabilities, and I was an early childhood teacher for a while too. I really have that broad range of experience that I'd like to bring to the school board, not only as a professional but as a parent.
Thank you. Question goes to Pauline Ho.
I'm a product of public education. I came here as refugees, and I graduated from high school here in Minnesota. I went to the University of Minnesota. My life had turned around because of the educations that I received, and I want to pass that to the next generations. I know that we are in an excellent school district. However, on my supplemental education business, I work with a lot of parents that didn't quite get the service that they deserve through the districts, and I wanted to become the bridge to connect those parents with the districts to share district resources. And I think as a school board member, I will have a lot of information to share, and I will be happy to do more community outreach so that parents know when they have a need, they know where to go, they know who to talk to, so their children can receive the service that they expected and deserve.
Thank you. That was our last question, and we'll now proceed to closing statements.
Can I do a rebut? Can I add?
Yes.
Okay. I want to put a gold star by this. It is the job of the school board to set policy, but it is good business to understand how that policy affects students, staff, and parents on a logistical level. I can do that.
Anyone else with a comment? Then we're going to move on to closing statements, and I'm going to begin by reading the closing statements from the three candidates who are not here tonight. The first one is from Dwayne Brauch. I want to you know that as your candidate for District 833, you can count on me. I ran in the last election in Cottage Grove for City Council. I know what is like be in the public light and to be asked the tough questions, and I have been reading the minutes for the last 6 months. I know I can step in, be your voice and your ears on the board for your son or your daughter on the school board. We need somebody that is going to listen to the wants of parents and voices for what teachers and parents want, not what the board wants or needs. I know with military skills and great leadership skills, I can provide to you, I will be and I am the best candidate for District 833 School Board. That's from Dwayne Brock. Ron Kath's closing statement. I'm very sorry I was not able to participate in the candidate forum in person. I had an out-of-state personal commitment. Why do I want to run for school board again? The school board will need strong, proven leadership and experience. Tough decisions will need to be made. My years of proven leadership and experience will allow me to be objective with all of the tough decisions that will be facing the school board in the upcoming years. I want to make sure we continue to increase student achievement, student personalization, employee development opportunities, and I want to make sure we have a strong financial position. Well, it's time to wrap up this message. In closing, I would first like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to have my closing statement read. I want to also thank the voters for electing me to service in this great school district. I hope you feel I have been a good steward of our school district, and I would ask again for your support on November 5th. I am looking forward to serving our school district for another 4 years. Thank you and good day. And the closing statement from Simi Patnaik. I should spell her last name because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's Patnaik. I wish I could have been here at the event tonight. I'm on a long-planned family trip. I'll be answering the questions asked here tonight on my Facebook page, which you can find by searching Vote for Simi 833, and on my website, www.votesimi833.com. I encourage you to contact me if you have further questions. I've spent years volunteering in the district to understand issues and make a difference. 6 years serving on my children's PTO board, including 2 years as president, and over 3 years on the Citizens Finance Advisory Committee, which allows me to understand the intricacies of our district's funding and budgeting. I've advocated for our district at the Capitol, phone banked, and written postcards to pass referendums. I've spoken with dozens of people to understand their experiences with the district. I have 3 main priorities: advocacy for all students, no matter what school they attend, a focus on mental health in schools, both to help our students and to help our staff, and long-term planning so that we can ensure our district remains strong both now and in the future. I have the experience to make a difference, and I'm committed to this district. Please vote for Simi Patnaik on November 5th. And now we will turn to the closing statements from our candidates who are here, and we will begin with Pauline Ho.
I would like to thank everyone for your attendance today, including who are watching at home. We are here for the future of the next generations. Education has always been the top priority in my family and my culture, and I am glad that there are many great candidates this year. To me, this election is not about winning or losing, but about the opportunity to serve and make a positive impact for the next generations.
Thank you. Next with her closing statement is Heather Hirsch.
I want to thank you all for attending, and I want to thank the other 5 candidates up here with me for running, and the 3 that were unable to be here. I think that it's a strong testament to our district that we regularly have this many candidates who are interested in being part of this process. And I also, like, shameless plug, there are lots of other ways to get involved in the district, because statistically some of us are not going to be sitting here come January. So I do think I have enjoyed serving on the school board, but I do think that there is more that we can do. The priorities that I will look at addressing if I am reelected to the school board is focusing on comprehensive school mental health. There is certainly a lot more that we can do in that area. Addressing our achievement gaps. We have a significant achievement gap that has not, in fact, gotten better recently. And focusing on teacher and staff culture and engagement. I think that it is critical that any of our initiatives start and end with the voice of our teachers. They are the heart of the district, and I would not ever want to see our teachers feeling as though they weren't listened to by the board or by the district.
Thank you. Now with her closing statement, Louise Hines.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity and thank citizens for listening in. I was recently asked what I want for the students of District 833, and the typical measures of school success, standardized test, and graduation rates never crossed my mind. What I want for our students is I want them to be prepared to thrive in whatever environment they choose, whether that's a college or a technical school, an apprenticeship or the military, whether it's a workforce or it's volunteerism. A focus on high-quality education and our children's physical, emotional, and social well-being will accomplish that goal. Let me put my experience as a parent and a teacher to work. My name is Louise Hines. Trust me with your vote.
Thank you. Now with his closing statement, Kevin Haskins.
Thank you. I again like to thank you for coming here tonight, and again to the League of Women Voters. My experience with the school-age population has taught me valuable lessons for the way kids of all ages want to be treated, cared for, and what is most important to them. This is school and education, but kids are heavily influenced in school by what is going on in the world around them. They bring all of that into the school. Therefore, the teachers are the arbiters for our children, and they need to be supported as well. My vision is for citizens to be heard and their voices represented. Equity, safety, and fiscal responsibility are all very important to me as well, personally and professionally. Thank you.
Thank you. Melinda Doles with her closing statement.
Yeah. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters for holding this, and for everyone that's here either in person or watching it televised or on YouTube. You can go to my website at dolesforschoolboard.com for further information, or if you'd like to send me any questions that weren't addressed here. As I stated earlier, I'm running for school board because I love this community and want to give back to it. I know our schools as a parent, as an active school volunteer, and as a former student. I've worked across the gamut of the services the district offers, which has given me a unique perspective to add to the board. I've dedicated the majority of my career to protecting the safety and well-being of our children. I'd like to bring that care and knowledge to the school board. I'll work hard to keep our students safe, help close the achievement gap, and advocate for the continued of all school programming, including academics, athletics, and the arts. Please vote for me on November 5th.
Thank you. Now with his closing statement, Keith Collier.
Yes. Again, as others have stated, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum that allows us to introduce ourselves to our community. I look forward to the opportunity to be on the school board, because I would love to be able to bring to this school board what I've brought to many organizations in my past over the 24 years in military service with 11 different locations, as well as my current position within the state of Minnesota. I would love to be able to work with the superintendent, to work with the various stakeholders, the unions and the PTOs and others, to be able to come up with creative solutions to issues or concerns that arise. The school board is just that, a board. It's a group. It's not an individual. And I would love to bring the work ethic and the team concepts that I've developed over the years to this board and bring us together as a group to be able to come up with solutions.
Thank you. Those are closing statements from our candidates. The League thanks the candidates for their participation. District 833 for the use of these facilities, our League volunteers, and you, the audience, for your attendance and interest. Let your voice be heard by voting on November 5th. Thank you and good night.